Hello. Today we're going to be trying to find out what the city of Bath looked like in the Middle Ages. Bath is famous for its Roman remains and its Georgian architecture. But what happened in the intervening centuries? And where can you see evidence of medieval Bath today? We're going to have a look at some bits of old buildings, the city walls and a couple of medieval roads. After the Romans left Britain, Bath sank into obscurity until it re-emerged as a fashionable spa town in the 18th century. We do know that the city was inhabited during the Saxon period. A monastery was established here, and King Alfred the Great fortified the town. However, the Roman baths were not maintained, and they gradually disintegrated into ruins and marshland. After the Norman conquest, an abbey was built on top of the Saxon monastery. We're going to start our tour here by the Abbey. In fact, what we see here isn't actually medieval, it was built later in the 16th century. However, we're starting here because this was the heart of the medieval city. To the south of the Abbey is Abbey Green. This would once have been part of the monastic grounds. Here we can see the location of the old Abbey gate. Obviously it's been replaced by modern construction, as a plaque marks the spot where it stood. The medieval city was a compact area around the Abbey and its grounds. It was surrounded by a wall. Much of this has now disappeared, but we can still see some fragments. The road we're now on is known as Upper Borough Walls, and here is a section of the old wall. Most of this is actually a Victorian reconstruction, but if we look around the back, we can see some of the medieval wall at the base. And here's another bit of old wall. This one's a bit hidden away. It's actually around the back of the Marks and Spencer's delivery area. Of course, the wall needed gateways so that people could get in and out of the city. There were 4 of these gateways, but the only one you can still see is the East Gate. What's particularly interesting here is that you can see a bit of the old road leading to the gate. At one time, all the roads in the city would have been like this, narrow and cobbled. We'll see another road like this later on. Before we leave the East Gate, it's worth going right to the end of the old road. Here you can see where the path of the city joined up with the river and the quayside. And then we'll take a look from the opposite side of the river, although of course the weir wasn't there in the Middle Ages. As far as the other city gates are concerned, the only bit of the north gate that now remains is a statue of Bluddard, the legendary founder of Bath. This is now kept inside the Roman baths. You can see where the west gate was, because the place is marked by the Westgate Street and by a pub of the same name. But unfortunately the South Gate has now given way to a rather nondescript modern shopping street. Back inside the old city, some of the streets still follow the medieval street pattern, which in turn was based on the Roman layout. This is Bridewell Lane, an original route, and this one is Parsonage Lane. And this one might be a modern street, but the name Cheap Street goes back to 1393. Cheap being an old word for market. But this is my favourite bit of medieval roadway in Bath. Just outside the walled city was the wonderfully named Slippery Lane. Unfortunately, you can't walk along it now, but it does give you the sense of how narrow and confined the streets would have been in the Middle Ages. Going back into the old town, Sally Lunn's eating house claims to be the oldest house in Bath. There are 2 dates on the outside, 1680 and 1482, which suggests that it was rebuilt at some time. In fact, the origins of the house are even older. The earliest floor level dates to around 1150, and Roman remains have been found in the cellar. And here we are in Sally Lunn's cellar, which is now a museum. And here you can see the medieval artefacts, including a 12th century oven. One more place remaining from the Middle Ages is the King's Bath. This was built in the 12th century on an earlier Roman site. It's now part of the Roman baths. And finally, people did of course live and work outside the city walls. One place where medieval remains are still visible are the 13th century Monk's Mill in Parade Gardens. This was one of 2 mills on opposite sides of the River Avon, outside the city, but supplying its needs. Although the Middle Ages in Bath are overshadowed by earlier and later periods, there's plenty to see if you look hard enough.